Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. Today, we're really getting into something I think we can all relate to, the power of using your voice.
Yeah.
And especially, how do we use our voices to speak up for those who maybe can't speak up for themselves?
Absolutely.
And to help us explore that, I thought it would be amazing to look at some powerful words from Malala Yousafzai.
Great choice.
I mean, she's just this incredible symbol of, bravery and resilience. And of course, her work advocating for girls' education is just phenomenal.
It really is. Inspiring, to say the least.
Totally. So, when I was looking through this collection of quotes about women's empowerment, this one just jumped right out at me.
Oh, yeah.
We realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced.
Wow.
I mean, right. I don't know about you, but that just kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah. No, it really hits you right away, doesn't it? It's powerful.
It is. There's so much to unpack in that one sentence.
It is. And it's so true. I think it speaks to like a really fundamental part of being human. We often take our voices for granted.
Yeah.
We can speak freely and then suddenly something happens and we realize, oh, wow, this is precious.
Exactly. It makes you think about all those times you might have held back from saying something.
Totally. All the time.
Like maybe you were afraid of, what other people would think, or you thought, well, my voice doesn't really matter anyway.
Absolutely. Self-doubt is a big one. Or, just feeling like you're going to be judged.
Yeah. And I think Malala's quote really challenges us to think about what it is that actually silences us.
Right. What are those internal and external barriers?
Exactly. Is it fear? Is it, societal pressure?
Yeah, all of that.
Are there certain systems in place that literally stop some people from being heard?
It's such a big question, but an important one.
It really is. It's like she's asking us to look back at all those moments where we felt silenced and ask ourselves why.
Yeah.
Like, was that my choice to not say anything, or was there something else going on?
Right. And even bigger than that, I think what happens when whole groups of people or even entire communities are never given the chance to speak up.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that do to a society? What happens when we silence the voices of those who disagree or who, want to challenge how things are?
That's such a crucial point. It's not just about our personal experiences.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about seeing how silencing can be used, to keep certain people in power.
Yeah.
To reinforce inequality.
Exactly. It's about power structures.
Yeah.
And when you think about Malala's own story, I mean, she was literally silenced by violence.
Right.
She was shot just for speaking up about the right for girls to have an education. But what's incredible is that instead of letting that silence her forever,
right,
she actually turned that experience into a way to speak up for all the other girls who are denied education.
Right, just because of their gender.
Exactly. And she went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. It's just phenomenal. I think her experience really shows what it means to be silenced.
Yeah.
In the most, literal sense. And it shows that silencing can happen in so many ways.
Right. It's not always something dramatic like, violence.
Right.
It can be these really subtle things, too.
Oh, totally.
Being interrupted constantly.
Yeah.
Or having your ideas dismissed before you even finish explaining.
Yeah. Or those little comments, the microaggressions that make you feel like you shouldn't speak up at all.
Totally. It's like a whole range of things. Like, on the one hand, there are those everyday moments where you just feel like nobody's listening.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, there are these systems that literally prevent entire groups of people from having a voice.
Exactly.
And I think Malala's quote reminds us to be aware of all of that.
It's all connected. And it's about understanding that, our own experiences with being silenced, it can actually make us more sensitive to the ways that other people are being marginalized.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I mean? It gives us this empathy.
Yeah.
That understanding to become better allies.
Oh, I like that. It's like, turning something negative, like being silenced, into something positive.
Exactly.
Using that experience to create space for others to be heard.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just listening. It's about actively working to, dismantle those systems and structures that are silencing people.
Yeah.
It's about challenging those in power,
Yeah.
challenging them to use their platforms to amplify those marginalized voices.
Right. So it's about action, not just awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
But where do we even start? I mean, the world feels so loud. There's so many voices all the time. How do we even know which ones to amplify?
Yeah.
How do we make sure we're not just adding to the noise?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's about being intentional, I think. like really discerning about whose voices we're choosing to amplify and why. We have to acknowledge that not all voices carry the same weight. Some voices have been like systematically marginalized and ignored for way too long.
So we should prioritize amplifying those voices.
Yes, the ones that haven't been heard.
But how do we actually do that? I mean, yeah, it's one thing to say we should listen to marginalized voices.
Yeah.
But actually doing it, finding those voices, it feels way more challenging.
It definitely takes effort. And honestly, a willingness to get out of our comfort zones a little bit. It means actively looking for perspectives that are different from our own, engaging with communities that are different from ours.
Right.
And being open to learning from people whose experiences are completely different from ours.
So it's not about passively, reading an article here and there.
No, it's active.
It's about actively seeking out these different perspectives.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing that can be, uncomfortable sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if it challenges, our own beliefs.
Oh, for sure. It can be really uncomfortable. But you know what? That discomfort, I think that's how we know we're actually doing something right.
Yeah, it's like a sign of growth.
Right. Because it means we're challenging those deeply ingrained ways of thinking.
Yeah.
The ones that led to certain voices being silenced in the first place.
So you have to be a little uncomfortable to actually learn and grow.
Exactly. And I think that's the core of what Malala is saying in that quote. It's not just about, realizing how important our own voice is.
Yeah.
It's realizing that our voices are the most powerful when we use them to make space for others.
Well, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a total shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's not about promoting ourselves or shouting our own ideas all the time.
No, it's not a megaphone.
Right. It's about amplifying those voices that have been pushed down, ignored.
Exactly.
The ones that need to be heard.
And that shift, it can be huge. I think it can change individuals and it can change our society. Because when we have more voices, when everyone can speak, we just have this much richer, more nuanced understanding of everything, of the world around us.
And then, we might actually be able to solve some of these really tough problems.
Oh, totally.
Because we're not just stuck in our own little bubbles.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to acknowledge this. The best ideas often come from the people who've been excluded, the ones who haven't had a chance to speak up.
So true. Now, I was thinking about something Malala said. She talks about realizing how important our voices are when we're silenced.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we, choose to stay silent? Is that always a bad thing?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Or, when does silence actually become part of the problem?
I think it depends, honestly, on the situation. I mean, sometimes staying silent is a privilege.
How so?
Well, if we have the power to speak up against something that's wrong, but we stay quiet because we're afraid or, just don't want to rock the boat, then we're essentially siding with the people who are causing the problem.
It's are we being silent for the right reasons?
Exactly.
Or are we just trying to protect ourselves or not make things awkward?
Exactly.
But then I guess there are times when staying silent is actually the right move.
Right.
Maybe we should just listen and learn first.
Yeah, there's a time for that. Sometimes the best thing we can do is amplify the voices of others.
Yeah.
Step back and let those who are actually affected by something, let them lead the conversation.
It's about knowing when to speak up and when to just listen.
Yeah.
Which is a skill in itself.
It really is. It takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah,
and being honest with yourself about what you know and what you don't.
So it's not just about finding our own voices. It's also about recognizing when our voice isn't the one that needs to be heard in that moment.
Exactly. It's bigger than that. It's about understanding the power dynamics and using our voices in a way that changes those dynamics.
So we create a world that's more fair, more just.
Yes, exactly.
It's a powerful idea.
It really is. And I think what Malala is saying reminds us, this isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
It's ongoing. We will always have work to do. There will always be voices that need to be lifted up and injustices to fight.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
Yeah.
It really is powerful. And, it makes me wonder, how do we take all of this awareness of silencing and, our responsibility to amplify other people's voices, how do we make it real?
Right.
It's easy to talk about these big ideas, but what does it look like to actually put this into practice in our lives?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? And honestly, I don't think there's one right answer. I think it's about finding what works for you. What are your strengths?
Yeah.
What are you passionate about? And then how can you use that, to contribute in a way that feels authentic and meaningful?
I like that. So it's like, finding where your interests and the needs of the world kind of overlap
Yeah, exactly.
and figuring out how to bridge that gap. It's like almost being a translator, taking these huge ideas about voice and social change
Yeah.
and turning them into actions that we can actually take in our communities.
I love that. The translator. That's
Yeah.
perfect. And I think it's important to remember this too, those actions, they can look like so many different things.
Right.
It's not always about, these grand gestures
Yeah.
or becoming like a big social media influencer.
Right.
It's about the everyday choices we make,
Yeah.
the conversations we have.
The little things.
Exactly.
So it's those small things we do consistently that can really add up and make a difference.
Exactly.
And I think it's about recognizing that we all have some kind of influence,
Right.
however big or small, and we can use that to help others be heard.
Yeah. Maybe it's something as simple as sharing a post online that highlights, an organization that's doing great work, or volunteering at a local shelter, or donating to a cause that really speaks to you, or even just like having those tough conversations with friends and family.
Right. The ones who might have like totally different opinions than you.
Exactly.
But those conversations are important.
They are.
It's those acts of courage, those little acts of compassion that can really make the world a better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's also important to acknowledge, this work, it can be tough. We're going to face pushback. We're going to feel maybe like we're not doing enough.
Right.
We might even get burnt out.
It's true. And that's why, it's so important to find support, like build those communities with people who get it, who are passionate about the same things.
So we can keep each other going.
Exactly. Because, when we feel connected to other people, it's just easier to keep going, even when it's hard.
Yeah. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, I love that one.
Right.
And it's true. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And that quote from Malala we talked about, we realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced. I think it reminds us that this work, it never really ends.
It doesn't.
There will always be voices that need to be heard, injustices that need to be fought against,
Always.
and systems that need to be totally changed. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought.
Okay.
What's one thing you can do this week to be a voice for someone?
Right.
Maybe write that email to your representative or volunteer somewhere or have that hard conversation.
Whatever it is, remember your voice matters. Even the small things make a difference.
So true. And keep learning, keep exploring. There are so many amazing people and causes out there. Finding your voice and using it for good, it's a lifelong journey.
It is.
And there's always more to discover. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll rise from the shadows and dance in the light, unlocking our power, igniting the night. In this deep dive we find strength in our voice, every woman a leader with dreams and a choice. Stand tall and proud, we're breaking the mold, with hearts full of fire, our stories get told. Together we soar on wings wide and free. The deep dive calls to you, come join and you'll see. With passion we conquer, each mountain we climb, an unstoppable force in rhythm and rhyme. In this podcast we shine like stars on the rise, uniting our spirits, breaking the ties. Stand tall and proud, we're breaking the mold, with hearts full of fire, our stories get told. Together we soar on wings wide and free. The deep dive calls to you, come join and we'll see. We conquer, each mountain we climb, an unstoppable force in rhythm and rhyme. In this podcast we shine like stars on the rise, uniting our spirits, breaking the ties. Stand tall and proud, we're breaking the mold, with hearts full of fire, our stories get told. Together we soar on wings The deep dive calls to you. Come join and you'll see.